It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show where we take all the hard work on our other show, Cordkillers, where we figure out how to watch all this stuff, and then we watch it and talk about it here. This week we'll be talking about Hannibal, Season 2, Episode 9, Invincible, Episode 8 of Season 1, and the entire run of the series Toast of London from Channel 4 and Netflix. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yes, I am. But the question, Tomas, is where do we begin? Perhaps we go to our producer live in studio.
What uno momento, because I actually need to update these titles. So
Oh, no.
talk a little more, gentlemen. Talk a little more.
Brian,
please.
it's Tom Merritt. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tom, I can hear you.
Let's try doing the titles without the script.
All right. Oh, that's the best part is he's like, yeah, I don't even need it. It's one word off to the side. And then just desperately glances over at the one word. Yes.
Let's talk about Toast of London. There's no way we can avoid it, Brian. It is a series from Channel 4 in the UK. We are watching it here in the United States on Netflix. And I apologize in advance for us continuing to distract ourselves by quoting and imitating the show, Brian.
Yes,
hold on, Brian.
Brian, sorry. Yes.
Brian, this is John Rail. Can you hear me?
Yes, John Rael, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Sorry, did you have a point? Was it did you just hop in to say nothing and then go away?
No. I just want to say that was great. But could you give it again? Just like the feeling is just a little bit more.
Sure. Thomas, it's wonderful to see you. I'm so excited that we get to talk about the Toast of London.
Yes, Brian.
It's addictive. It's addictive. I don't walk down this path. You're gonna get trapped. You're gonna be stuck in Stephen Barry forever and ever and ever. It's so great.
So Matt Berry is Stephen Gonville Toast. We find out his middle name at one point. He is a actor of stage and screen in London, and that's it. That's pretty much it. If you like Matt Berry in the It Crowd or in What We Do in the Shadows, it's all the Matt Berry you could hope for, concentrated in a bag and then huffed directly into your comedic lungs.
So I've been trying to figure out what's so great about it, and I think we talked a little bit about it last week, and I think that I just grew up like the only British farce territory that I knew of was Monty Python, and those guys were all weird. Whereas, like, I don't know, to experience a fresh, over-the-top take on comedy where it's like they're going to spell out every single joke 3 times, so there's no way you can miss it.
Repetition is a big thing in this, where they will like repeat. Like someone will say, "Did you go to the store yesterday?" "Yes, I went to the store yesterday." Like,
as you know, I always go to the store on Thursdays.
But then sometimes,
weirdly, I know you go to the store on Thursdays, Brian.
Well, you don't need to make a bloody federal case out of it. I go to the store on Thursdays. What's the big deal, Tom Merritt?
Then it's so weird because sometimes they'll do that, but then sometimes they negate their own joke. Like, no, stop repeating what I'm saying. That's absurd. Why are you being absurd right now? And then something absurd will happen and nobody will mention it, and it's fine. Like, there's no rhyme or reason or rules for when the universe is okay.
Do dive into and out of it. Like, for example, there's that one moment when he's like, when he says, "Your marriage is a farce, Ray Purchase, and I hope you heard that word. Your marriage is a farce," and then it goes into like just a classic French farce afterward.
Also, there's always a musical number, and it's very short.
Yeah,
right? Like
it never overstays its welcome.
Musical numbers in comedy generally turn into full songs, and these are always like just one verse and then out.
And sometimes I've
noticed
they're
always period.
And sometimes they're short, but sometimes they are either comedic or, am I wrong? Was I just on too many substances watching? Because sometimes I'm like, wow, this is really a sincere musical moment where they're expressing something meaningful.
From what I understand,
right, because Matt Berry is a musician who has albums. The song from Toast of London is a really, really good like homage to that late 60s, early 70s vibe. But if you read the lyrics, it's like, I don't know you, but would you like to go down to the pub I know and we could talk because you seem cool? And it's like a ridiculous Stephen Toast lyric in what is a fine song.
He also has his singing voice is a couple of octaves higher than his actor voice, and so as a result, I for a brief while I was convinced that it was clearly not him singing, but now I've heard his music separately, and I'm like, oh,
if you go look at IMDb, the people he sings with often aren't singing with him. They will often have someone else sing that is credited separately, but he always sings his parts.
So how do you sum up what this is to somebody who ain't seen none of it? Because like you look at this image and you're like, I don't think this is something I would like.
No, you just have to tell them to watch it, and they'll either get sucked in or they won't.
Yeah. I would tell them that you shouldn't like it. I shouldn't like it, but you probably will.
That's a pretty good way to put it.
That's absolutely right, because I watched it and I'm like, I don't understand why Brian likes this. It's so full of in-jokes to London's West End and the
I don't
BBC
get half the
and
jokes.
things that I get some of the jokes because I watch way too much British television, and I don't get nearly all the jokes. There are jokes I only know because of the shadow they cast, and I'm like, I can't imagine Brian gets any of those jokes, and yet it still works, and it does. It's still funny.
Oh my God, the over the topness, like where they're arguing about whether or not Ray Bloody Purchase's wife is a prostitute, and then they stop in front of a billboard that says Mrs. Purchase, call for sex.
Well, and then there's the like, we need to hide this from my husband, but he's asleep in the bed.
Yes,
because he had a really hard night.
I don't know why.
Don't wake him up.
I don't know why I love it so much. I think I love it because it keeps setting up either a ceiling or a floor, and then crashes through either. And does not hurt the repeated appearances of Brick Talk from Guy Ritchie's Snatch.
Yeah, just a mean old man. Like
Alan Ford.
Here's a question though. Were you guys disappointed or waiting for certain payoffs that never ever happened, like the unspeakable play? Like, were you waiting for something to transpire?
Oh, no. I felt like it was very, very clear. Like, these are the rules of the game. You will never know the name. And all you need to know is that it's highly transgressive. That's it. And they'll talk around it.
Did you catch Daisy Ridley's cameo?
Yes, I did.
Who is Daisy Ridley?
Ray.
She is
from
Ray
Star
in
Wars.
Star Wars.
Oh yes, no, I did catch her cameo.
All I could think of was Matt Berry made out with Ray from Star Wars. Well, now I've seen everything.
Yeah, it was fantastic,
and it was
and John Hamm.
That was before she was cast as Ray. So
the John Hamm arc was a delight.
It's just John Hamm being John Hamm because he's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, dude. Okay, so elements just in general, because we're talking about the entire season. I love that our main character is a piece of garbage. I love that I am being introduced to the highly repetitive and over-the-top nature of British farce. It awoken in me some I don't know, Ted Lasso vibes almost, you know. Maybe it was just dealing with the manager and whatnot. It goes in so many different directions. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's impossible to nail down, and I think that's what makes it so much fun to watch, is like that you're never going to really know where it's going to go next. You're never going to get the expected joke, or if you do, they're going to hammer it in your face. Like, here's the expected joke. You knew this was coming. Here, look at it. It's just
I will say it's got to make production way easier, because it's like, oh, we can't get them back for the next episode. Doesn't matter. That's fine.
Yeah. They also love, and this may be not as obvious to some folks, but like Alan Ford, like you mentioned from Snatch, you know, they subvert his type, right? By making him a hypnotist and a homeopath. Peter Davison, who played Doctor Who, is kind of just a ne'er-do-well bad roommate. So they're always undercutting people's
Oh my
actual
God, is that
characters
who
they're
that
supposed
is?
Can I just
Davison-
point out how
Davison was Peter Davison. Yeah.
Oh, I
How
thought you were
buff Ray Purchase
Yeah,
is?
Ray
Yes.
Purchase is shredded. I had no clue.
They hide that very well. But,
Yes.
but my goodness, Tom, I did not realize that was Peter Davidson. I knew him from somewhere, and
Yeah.
the low key way he's into the weirdest stuff. Oh my God, and the whole constant torturing of Stephen Toast by the production crew. Just never gets old. It's really great. It's great.
The other thing that I really enjoyed was his brother, who plays like a like late 1800s British person. Like he's entirely out of character
in the military.
Yeah.
Whose hand is constantly off being repaired, which is why he has a crappy kitchen glove on.
Has a rubber glove on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Suffice to say, we're all fans of it. We give it whatever our highest rating is.
4 toasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
We give it 4 out of 4 toasts. I liked it a lot.
All right.
I think if we keep talking about it, we're just going to end up quoting lines to each other.
And we can't. This is family friendly. So don't quote it.
So that is Toast of London, the show. All right, let's talk about Invincible, episode 8, season 1, the season finale. Brian, I already been spoiled on Twitter that you absolutely adored this.
Yeah, I did. And I loved it so much that I ended up rewatching the entire series again, just to and again, much like with Toast of London, I'm watching my wife watch it. This was my college roommate. I got him to watch the first couple of episodes, and man, just sucked in all over again. There's so much they do. And episode 7 was so over the top and so good that I feared what they were going to do is the Game of Thrones thing, where episode 8 was going to be just a quiet denouement, something to pitch the next season or whatever. And it kind of was, but like the last 10 minutes of this episode, where we see these flashes of all of this crazy world that's been created, the underworld criminals, the version of S.H.I.E.L.D., the version of the Guardians of the Globe, at some point it begins to dawn on you that it's like, oh, space Nazis are coming, and it's humanity. The good parts, the bad parts, the ugly parts, the shortcut taken parts, the alien parts that are going to have to come together to stop space Nazis. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in. I'm all the way in. It's all the way great. It's amazing. My soundtrack is I am surprised that my Echo device didn't know what I meant when I was like, play the soundtrack to Invincible. Because you would think they would, when they clearly have invested so much in so much good music of so many different genres, you would think that they would have that ready to go. But instead, there's like a Spotify playlist or whatever.
Yeah, I love that the tricky reveal of this episode was, you haven't been watching Invincible yet. You've been watching the prologue to Invincible.
You've been watching
now,
the sizzle reel.
Invincible starts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Invincible is the story of Mark Grayson defending his world against an unstoppable force that is led by his father's race. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a compelling story that I can't wait to start the story. And I don't say that in any way meaning I regretted these first 8 episodes. In fact, you have to have these first 8 episodes to be this excited about where it's coming. But that was the beautiful trick of like, yeah, all you've been learning, that's just background material. It was really fun, enjoyable background material for the real conflict which is how could, because the problem with superheroes, right, is always like, well, if they're overpowered, then you don't have stakes. And they're like, we have created the greatest stakes of all time. And there is no way Earth can survive this. We've shown that no planet can survive it. So can one, half Venturian save Earth? Probably not, but watch to find out.
So one of the things we've talked about before is that shows tend to get kind of an automatic upgrade when they're binged rather than watched week after week. And we've watched this week after week. I binged it again. And as a binge, oh, Tom, it is chef's kiss. Like episode, I don't know, I think it was 6 or whatever, before the really, really good one. I didn't think was terribly great, but watching it straight through, it's like, oh no, this is good character development. We needed to know about this, and that, because it leads into the big battle. I mean, it's so good. It's so good.
The only thing I'll say, and I don't really have anything negative to say about the entire series, but I felt like the daddy issue thing could have had a little lighter touch at the beginning of this episode. Like, I got it after the first 5 minutes, and they kept punching with like, and you just need to deal with me because I'm your dad, and I could have shortened that up a little, but that's it. I got nothing else bad to say about this episode.
Yeah, I had an unfair. So we talk about things that get properties an automatic upgrade. For example, if you go to see Interstellar with your daughter and you happen to be a dad that goes on a lot of business trips and your daughter's there next to you howling in the theater, you have a different experience as her dad goes on a very important business trip.
Right.
I have a 13-year-old daughter who I'm watching Invincible with, and as that episode ended, me holding her hand, and it gets to the big fat ending, and it sets up the big story of Earth has got to prepare itself for a space Nazi invasion. Like, I leapt to my feet and jumped up and down, and the two of us stared each other in the eye and were like, what? I haven't had that in a long time. It was really great. It was really great.
Anything else on Invincible?
No, I highly recommend it. John, have you watched it yet?
No, I have not seen episode 1, but I look forward to getting the boost of binging.
Yes. Well, no lie, I will go for a third lap. That's how good this story is. It's very good.
Nice. Well, it is definitely on the list.
That is Invincible, the first season. Whole first season, episode 8, season 1. Let's talk about Hannibal, season 2, episode 9, Shizakana. We have a body that appears to have been torn apart by 2 different animal species, but that's because it's a guy with an animal suit that uses a cave bear skull, which can appear like 2 different animals. And that guy tears people apart. Also, Will and Hannibal are dancing away at each other. And what's her name? Margot, I think, who we kind of didn't talk about in the last episode. She starts the Hannibal Protege Club with Will. And they talk about like, man, that Hannibal, he sure does encourage you to become a serial killer, doesn't he, Margot? And Margot's like, yeah, you too? Wow, that's crazy, Will.
That's probably the most significant part of this. And so maybe we'll start there. That is kind of an interesting idea that Will says, that Will tells Hannibal, hey, what happens when all of your weirdo students start, pairing up notes? And I feel like that's the closest we've ever experienced to Hannibal having a surprise. I wouldn't go all the way into saying that he's surprised, but that's the closest I could picture Hannibal to being surprised.
That you've moved your pawn to rook 4, and he was expecting you to do something else, but he's like, oh, intriguing move, move, Will Graham.
Oh, okay. Now, having said that, I have 2 complications with this episode. As you know, I'm very selfish, and normally my favorite part of Mondays is getting up and watching Hannibal so that it's fresh in my mind so that we could talk about it during the show. Today, I got pulled away about 5 times from the show. Now, you could say that I just had a busy day and got pulled away, but there are other days that I remember the phone ringing a lot and me ignoring it and just continuing to watch Hannibal. So the question you have to decide is that my fault or Hannibal's that I found myself so very distractible while trying to watch Hannibal today? Second thing is, oh boy, is this very close to the story that one Andrew Mayne wrote and is a best-selling novel.
This came out April 25th, 2014.
Yeah. I don't know when he wrote it. Also,
Yeah,
it's
and I
not,
don't know when this episode was written.
right. And also, I don't know how universal this kind of idea is.
Sure.
You know, but I found it highly distracting, and I had a hard time dialing in on this one.
The other part of the story we should talk about is that Hannibal gets the cave bear guy to try to kill Will. Lures him out into the forest, hurts one of the dogs, which I think all of us can agree was the worst part of this episode. Like, you better not freaking hit the dog. And then Will acknowledges it by saying, "Even Steven, I tried to kill you. You have now tried to kill me. So we're golden."
I found that deeply unsatisfying, Tom.
In
From a
what
show
way?
where I normally expect to be surprised, I felt like that was a punt.
What was a punt about? What about it was a punt?
Like
Are you saying the attempt by Hannibal or the Will saying we're even now?
maybe both. Because like that was a fairly unsubtle, unclever way to attack Will, and Will saw right through it, and he said, "Hey, this is what you did," and it's like, well, what are you gonna do? And Will did quite literally what like your Michael Scotts, your literal bad middle management person would do, is say, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna forget about it. We're even Stevens. Stop. And it's like, well, none of that was surprising or satisfying to me.
I suppose you could look at it that way. I treated it as Hannibal knew Will would survive. Hannibal did this as a test. Like, oh, I've got here this Randall guy came across my path. Let me see what Will does. Let's throw this weapon at Will and see how he dodges it. And then Will dodged it. And Hannibal said, well, okay, that's interesting. Good to know. All right, note taken. Here's how the subject performed in the test of having cave bear guy thrown at him. So that all made perfect sense. It was I was like, oh yeah, no, this is going to happen. They're going to spar. The even Steven thing, I don't know what to make of. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's Michael Scott or that I know what it's meant for. I looked at it as like, okay, that's interesting, because if that's all it is Will literally saying, okay, we're even now, stop, that would be unsatisfying. But I tend to not think that's what Will means, because Will isn't saying what he means to Hannibal these days. So I'm
there might be
at a loss to
sneakier-
give you an explanation of what he did mean, though. So I'm a little hung up on it too.
And it might be one of those things where in the moment it seems silly, but then there's a deeper meaning or layer that is revealed to us later that if we were binging it, we would appreciate sooner. But for right now, I found this episode not very satisfying. But
well, that's because you're in a hurry. That's why you like binging. You're in a hurry. You want all the answers. I think it's fine to kind of let it roast, let it sit there, let it simmer, see what it is.
Yeah. You are more patient than I am.
Not usually. just in this particular instance, I think.
So it sounds like you like this episode a little bit more than I did.
It was fine. I think the words you just said were absolutely true. I liked this episode a little more than you did. I also found myself doing a couple of other things while watching it as well.
Right?
Maybe it was the pacing, right? It's not so much the substance of the show. It maybe this particular episode just didn't quite have the pace that some of the other ones do.
It never quite hit the groove that other episodes do. Like most of the other episodes hit a groove where it's like, yeah, I think pretty much everything else in my life can wait for a few minutes. And this one never got close to that.
I can't look away. I need to see this.
Right.
There was a lot of points here where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know where that's going to go for the next
an omelet with some liver in it. I don't know, probably a human liver. Who cares? I don't know. You know.
I mean, it probably tastes great. Right?
Yeah. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Let me press pause on this show and go eat liver with
and go eat
omelet.
John's liver.
Eat John's.
Okay.
You got to be careful when your boss is watching Hannibal. I'm just saying.
Duly noted. I like that this is live streamed on the record.
John is like, all of a sudden, I'm not comfortable with this cosplay game anymore. I'm really sorry I brought that in.
Where's my Hannibal costume? I need to exert dominance.
Yes, I need to be Hannibal. If you're anyone's cosplaying, you want to cosplay as Hannibal. Yeah, that's all I got on 209.
Yeah, it was a bit weird because it felt just a bit lighter on substance than I'm accustomed to from the show. And
I
that's
like
not
a
saying it's
lower
bad.
Concentration. Yeah. There was a little more monster of the week in this one than usual. Maybe
kind of a crappy monster of the week.
Yeah, I mean, he was all right.
Sorry, kind of a least best of all of the monsters of the weeks they've done.
Planet. I just kept thinking of Clan of the Cave Bear because they brought up Cave Bear.
Yeah.
That is Hannibal season 2, episode 9. And that is Spoilerin time for today. You may be wondering, well, you've watched all of Toast of London in 1 week, you impatient bastards. What are you going to do next time? Well, next week we will begin watching Netflix's Jupiter's Legacy. That is their superheroes across generations, Mark Miller property. We'll also continue to watch Hannibal, and we're going to watch the movie that Brian was raving about on Cordkillers, Nobody, and talking about it on Spoilerin time next week. Talk to you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.